Welcome to The Road Forward. I'm Flint Holbrook, your host. I'm here with Wayne Lalevee, who's co-owner of C&L Logistics located in North Carolina. And I got to know Wayne just a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and they are not only a brokerage, but they also own some trucks and use some power-only owner-operators. C&L primarily focuses on food distribution, so they're doing truckload work, primarily with reefers. And I thought it was pretty fun when Wayne and I called up a few weeks ago. He said that they tend to dance to the beat of their own drum. And he gave me quite a few pretty interesting examples of why that's the case. They don't always follow the industry norms. So Wayne, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me, Flint.
So Wayne, I think we can jump right in. Look, when we talked a few weeks ago, you mentioned the driver shortage, and I think everybody is feeling the driver shortage across the board. You mentioned how it's really affecting your business. What do you think is causing the shortage?
I think there's a couple different things that are causing it, Flint. Last year was really an eye-opener for us because we had so many trucks that were sitting, and we recognized that we needed to do something different. So, changing the way we approach just our normal activities has helped to right our ship, if you will.
And so, what are you seeing out there? Do you think it's drivers leaving the market? And when you say right your ship, what do you mean? You've been able to recruit and retain.
We have, we probably had upwards to 30 to 40% of our fleet sitting last year for a couple of months. So, we did a couple things. We hired an amazing person, Rosalind, to boost our social media presence. We added a recruiter to help us to be more responsive to drivers that may be just inquiring about our company. Mm-hmm. But there's so many factors that's causing this. We've got an aging driver population. We've got an increased demand. COVID has caused everyone to buy more stuff. Look at how Amazon has grown so much recently. My neighbors probably get no less than 6 deliveries a day.
Me too. Us too. My wife's doing, yes.
But a lot of the technology that's in the trucks nowadays, and the requirement of ELDs has forced some of the aging population out, and some of this technology has also caused some of these independents to look to go into other professions. So. Another thing that's causing it that we need to talk about or need to be cognizant of is just equipment availability. You look at all OEMs, and I don't know of any fleet that has been able to receive 100% of their orders.
Yeah, so there's challenges. There's challenges all over the industry here. Do you think pay has something big to do with it? I mean, are drivers, the labor market is kind of in this big upswing post-COVID. Are drivers looking out there and saying, why should I drive when I can go do X, Y, and Z and make the same money and work a 40-hour week?
Very good question and very good point, Flint. Pay certainly needs to be addressed. Benefits too, but along with having competitive pay with where every other carrier is, transparency and respect are huge as well. And I believe that is, all of those factors are the reason for our recent success.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So how big of a factor do you think dwell time is? I know that's something that's been brought up in the news a lot lately. And there seems to be this, push and pull of saying, well, we're not handling dwell time correctly, and shippers obviously don't want to pay it. And so, how important is dwell time? What's your view on it?
I believe that dwell time is a major factor in the crisis that we're faced with today as far as driver availability and also capacity. We're members of the American Trucking Association, and we're firmly aligned with their stance, which has been no other industry offers free time. Why should trucking offer free time? We believe that the truck should be compensated from the time they arrive and not offering any kind of free time.
And you not only believe that as a human being, right, sitting here thinking, but you've actually implemented this in your business, correct?
We have. We've made the decision to part company with some clients when we couldn't come to terms on an equitable dwell time policy. But overall in the industry, Flint, I would say that I'm seeing more and more customers migrating to lower times that they're asking trucks to sit.
And by that, do you mean that the shippers are being more efficient and actually getting the trucks loaded and on the road, or is that you only sit now for an hour for free instead of 2 hours for free? Is that what you mean? Or is it both?
I mean, actually both. Yeah, very good listening.
Yeah.
I would say that shippers are definitely becoming more responsive. I think they're hearing and seeing the driver shortage out there and realizing that they play a key role in this. And then they're also, in order to be a shipper or customer of choice, they are lowering some of those times.
Yeah. And so you own your own trucks, and obviously you're also a broker. And so tell me, like, how important is dwell time in your operation, especially for the trucks that you own and the drivers that you pay? If you end up with a bunch of dwell time, what does that do to you?
It kills the driver's efficiencies and the truck's efficiencies. So we implemented guaranteed pay for drivers. So if we do, for whatever reason, have a truck that's delayed somewhere by no fault of the driver, that driver is still going to receive a guaranteed minimum for that week as long as he or she, is available for that time.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe that's something, like if I'm sitting here as a carrier listening to this interview, what can I actually do, right, to begin addressing this problem? What advice do you have for a carrier? And maybe that's one item, right, is guaranteed pay.
So that's something we do on the driver end, but I think the question I'm hearing you ask is, what advice could I give to other carriers or even brokers as well to have that conversation? And that's exactly what it is. It's a conversation with the client. I heard someone say a very long time ago, the one with the most data wins. And, if you have that documentation, whether it's an ELD or a, trailer tracking or a, four kites, trucker tools type of a tracking device, if you have that data and you could present that to your customers and say, look, we're seeing an excessive amount of dwell time at this location, and we need to do something about it. Just having those difficult conversations, sometimes they're not very difficult. Sometimes they may not recognize that they've got a pinch point in their organization and they need to do more hiring or maybe change some hours.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So in the past, when you've had those conversations, do they generally go well and your customer understands the situation and helps you remedy it? I mean, how often do they say, I don't care?
The very few clients that we've had that conversation with that said we just don't care, we choose not to, we allow our competition to do business with them.
Interesting. Okay, so obviously this is a big industry-wide issue. As a broker, do you see, all right, let me back up. If I am a carrier and I want to do what you just did and say, okay, fine, shipper, you don't care, you can do business with my competitor, is there always a competitor out there that's willing to take that work? Like, at what point does the competitive dynamic shift to say, now most carriers are going to expect dwell time, so now we actually have to do something about that? Does that make sense?
It does, and we're in a free market, so everyone can choose to not do business with. I call them problem ship points or receivers. But you're right. Someone will always come in there, and maybe there'll be a change of management, and hopefully, that facility will be corrected, that behavior.
Right. So obviously, it's an industry-wide issue. So what do you think? If this issue can get solved industry-wide, and obviously we're making a lot of headway towards that, right? Like this is now a topic of discussion. And so if dwell all of a sudden isn't free across the industry, how does it change the industry? Do you think that there's a massive shift here?
I don't know that I would say massive. Kind of hard to quantify, but I think we would see a substantial capacity would increase, because the driver availability would increase. So, just simple things like that. Autry is a great resource as well. They talk about the pinch points in the country with delays with traffic, and how changing laws with allowing drivers to do more split sleeper berth type scenarios would increase productivity as well. But this dwell time alone could have, I believe, a substantial impact.
Yeah, I mean, at the simplest level, I've got to think less sitting in the parking lot and more time with your wheels turning has got to increase capacity in a huge way.
Absolutely.
I would think.
Happier drivers.
Yeah, and happier, better paid drivers. Yeah, exactly. It's a win-win. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So really the big takeaway here is have a conversation with your customers, it sounds like. And this isn't the first time I've heard this, Wayne. I'm happy that you've said this again, and that most people are pretty reasonable and actually understand where you're coming from.
Well, thank you. I just you would think that we planned this, but I feel like it's quite simple. My partner Rick Coates and I have been transparent and straightforward all these years, and have never shied away from the difficult conversations.
Yep, that's great. And you've got to, right, in this business. Like, if you're going to own a business and be successful, you've got to take the bull by the horn. So, Wayne, I really appreciate you joining me today. I think we've covered some really interesting information and given some pretty solid advice to listeners out there. This has been a real pleasure. Look, the biggest thing, I want to just ask this last question. What is the biggest thing that you have your eye on over the road forward for the next 12 months?
Growth, and growth.
But just in your business, you guys are so heads down focused on growth right now.
We are. We just opened an office earlier this month. We're getting ready to open another location. So, we really have some aggressive growth plans for this year.
That's awesome. So if you're listening, you just heard Wayne say that his big focus is growth. So if you haven't done so, I highly suggest that you go to our website, theroadforwardpodcast.com, and subscribe to our email list, because when I wrap this interview up with Wayne, we're going to ask the Fast 5 questions, and some of those have to do with growth in his business and how he looks at that and what are his KPIs. So I think you're going to want the answers that Wayne is about to give us. So again, theroadforwardpodcast.com, type in your email, subscribe to the list. And if you're enjoying the show, remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Just click the little subscribe button so that you'll see our new episodes. Wayne, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Flint. It's really been enjoyable and great to see you again.
Yeah, same here. It's a lot of fun. So, folks, just remember, if you listen to the show, that our industry is changing really fast. And until next time, you need to keep your eyes on the road forward.